I dare you to do it, and I say to you that if you ever again try to interfere with me or cross my path, it will be the peril of your life. General Nathan Bedford Forrest said this to General Braxton Bragg in the Civil War. According to the American Spectator, Forrest's propensity for violence and ability to instill fear help explain one of the most extraordinary and most overlooked figures in American history. A quintessential son of the South he was. I will now take you through the life and time of Nathan Bedford Forrest, who's right behind me here. The three things I want to bring out about Forrest were the man before the war, the devil Forrest during the war, and the old man after the war. In an essay by Rick Montez, he said that Nathan Bedford Forrest, a name that struck dread in his enemies, which was revered by his men, he was arguably the greatest cavalryman during the war. Nathan Bedford Forrest was born on July the 13th, 1821. Forrest had a twin sister, Fanny, who died at 5 of typhoid disease. Forrest also contracted the disease but survived. Forrest was named Nathan after his grandfather, and Bedford after the county that he was born in. Everyone called him Bedford. Forrest's father, William, who was a blacksmith, died when Forrest was only 15, leaving his eldest son to take care of his impoverished family. According to the New York Times, despite his humble beginnings in little school, Forrest was a wealthy man, well known as a Memphis speculator and a Mississippi gambler. As his fortune increased, he engaged in real estate, plantation speculation, and became a nominal owner in 2 plantations. At the outbreak of the Civil War in April 12, 1861, he had risen from a backwoods rat to a wealthy Southern gentleman, and Forrest volunteered as a private in the war. Then deciding to raise and equip his own unit out of his own pocket, he was a commissioned lieutenant colonel and issued a call arms in 1861 of June. According to thehistorychannel.com, despite having no formal military training, Forrest rose from the rank of private to lieutenant general, serving as a cavalry officer in numerous engagements including the battles of Shiloh, Chickamauga, Fort Pillow, and Bryce's Crossroads. Known for his maximum get there first with the most men, Forrest was relentless in harassing the Union. According to CivilWar.org, during the skirmish at Parker's Crossroads on New Year's Eve, Forrest and his men were totally surprised when the Union force suddenly appeared in the rear and threatened to surround them. "Charge 'em, boys, both ways," Forrest famously ordered. They did, and they were able to escape the trap and fight another day. In the summer of 1864, Forrest won one of his greatest victories at Bryce's Crossroads. Defeating a force twice his size, his legend was constantly growing. That year, General William Tecumseh Sherman declared, "That devil Forrest must be hunted down and killed if it costs 10,000 lives and bankrupts the federal treasury." Forrest admittedly concluded the South had lost the war 18 months prior to its official end, but Forrest continued to fight when asked to join the unsurrendered Confederates of Texas. He replied, "Men," he said, "you may do as you damn well please, but I'm a-going home." To make men fight under such circumstances would be nothing but murder. Any man who's in favor of further persecution of this war is fit to be in an insane asylum. Forrest went back home and tried to rebuild his life. He entered into business ventures with northern foes and became successful once again. After the war, Forrest was best known for having been a prominent figure in the foundation of the Ku Klux Klan. In 1869, Forrest disowned the Klan. Addressing a black gathering in 1875, he declared, "We have but one flag, one country, let us stand together. We may differ in color, but not in sentiment." According to CivilWarInteractive.com, on April 29, 1877, the former president of the Confederate States, Jefferson Davis, came by to visit Forrest in his home in Bailey Springs. But by then, Forrest had slipped so far that he did not recognize Davis. At 7 p.m., the general had breathed his last breath. Perhaps the most fitting epitaph were the words his friend Minor Meriwether was heard saying cheerfully to his son Lee. "The man you just saw die will never die. He will live in the memory of men who love patriotism and who admire genius and daring." Forrest started in poverty and reached wealth with little schooling. had a brilliant military career that people study to this day, worked to unite a country that was broken, and even an essential standing in the Klan. But he soon separated himself from it. I hope that I've gave you some insight of this man, and also kind of wanted you to go and read about someone who had such a role in American history, because the Civil War is a big part of our history. In conclusion, a quote from an essay that Rick Montez said about Nathan Bedford Forrest. He defended his homeland and never asked his men to do anything that he would not do himself. Controversial only by those who don't take time to study the man, his life, and his time. Nathan Bedford Forrest was an American warrior.